So it's finally happened. Awesomenauts has had its live version re-released. It's been out a bit for the demo version, but it didn't see much activity because you would have to go out of your way to activate that version, and it was less stable than the 3.2 version, which unfortunately also split the already small player count. Now that it's seemingly finalized and is the only version available through the normal means on Steam, this will reunite the player base and hopefully lead to a somewhat stable queuing system. However, because the lobby system runs on a live version, Knott's lobbies has been taken offline. Hopefully ghost lobbies aren't going to be an issue moving forward, but it is worth noting that whether you used it or not, NoGhost had drastically reduced the queue times to that third-party program by making them visible and filling up the ones that were already nearly full by allowing players to manually join them, meaning that's entirely possible as a concern in the near future. The website was such a heavy contributor to the game's longevity, I would probably attribute it almost as highly as the Ronimo dev who left the downgraded version of the game when the company went bankrupt. So thank Nokos, and remember to thank Denons again for all of this even being possible. There have been a few changes. League leaderboards now reset monthly, though I'm not sure what value they carry at this point. Most obvious change being the matchmaking system being dependent on Steam servers instead of Ronimo. There is the potential of surfacing bugs, such as the one when it was being tested involving one teammate disappearing, or even ending up as a fourth on the other team. Some weird stuff. And the greatest change of all, unlocks have been removed. Everyone has access to their shop upgrades no matter how much they've played the character, and can hear their killing sprees when they get 3 kills. It only took 8 years, but they inadvertently removed the worst decision made in the free-to-play update. But, to address the elephant in the room, the title. Now that the final version of Knots is released, and the only adjustment that can be expected past this point are patching out the hiccups that will inevitably surface, the query arises. Now what? The obvious answer is that we play, enjoy the Twilight years until the matchmaking becomes barren naturally from the veterans leaving for one reason or another. This is basically the definitive final state of Awesomenauts. New people could join, but as I've stated repeatedly, Awesomenauts is not even remotely friendly towards new players. The skill floor is low, and although I wouldn't call the ceiling super high, most people playing are well beyond the floor at this point. The game's tutorial is minimal, there's tons of factors that it omits or simply can't go over and have to be learned via raw experience. The game's built on an engine and context of over a decade passing, and it being a 3v3 puts a lot of pressure on each individual. There's a lot of Steam guides from various versions of the game, some of the newer ones being from the older version 3.2.8, making it even more confusing, and the obvious issue of there really being no effective way to practice with bots, as they play a lot different from players and have a very limited pool of characters. None of this even factoring in the $20 entry fee. Look, I defend reverting free to play on the game. It means that Atari told us up front what they wanted. They're not going to bastardize the design, and it gives you every expansion with the rest of the game, meaning they're still selling the content for less than Ronimo did. It also means less people can throw negative reviews on the game for no reason other than dead game. The best case scenario would have been them making it free to play and then trying to sell Awesomenauts merch to try to make some sort of green. But let's be honest, who other than a handful of Knots fans and the most diehard Atari old heads were gonna buy that? I prefer this way because I don't want to discourage this type of business practice, because it could save a lot of titles in the future. But that did in fact put in an entry fee, which even if it were $10, $5, or 99 cents, requires a form of commitment that will filter out people who may have otherwise given it an honest try. No matter where you stand on this, that's just how it's gonna be. So play the game, whenever you feel like it. And if you meet people with even the mildest interest in it, I would highly recommend gifting it to them at some point. Obviously, don't lie to them about how hard it's gonna be, but guide them on that journey. Because I promise you, that's exponentially more effective than any new player coming in and trying to get into the game with 100-decade-old veterans and trying to figure it out on their own, even if it were free. I might make a video on this one day, but it's not going to be anytime soon, but I am a strong proponent of game community cultivation. At some point after, or even during development of an online game, the responsibility of creating, maintaining, and tending a community falls onto the lap of the players. We shouldn't let a dev team's lifespan dictate that of its game, like we shouldn't let the dev teams or publishers dictate the game's death artificially. Without going too much on a tangent, a lot of modern gaming is too live service minded and thinks the game is dead when it stops getting updates or even if it's slow to get any, rather than a game being dead when you can no longer play it. This mentality causes people to leave perfectly functional games because they're not getting new content, even when, truth be told, in many a instance, it doesn't need anything new. The core is already great, it's perfectly fine where it is. My point being that for us who want to continue playing the game, and want to share it with the few out there who wouldn't mind seeing it to its end with a fresh pair of eyes, if you really want that, contribute to the community, make fan art, videos, mods, showcase them, run contests, check out tournaments, anything. Show that there's something here that is worth talking about, worth trying, worth experiencing. because that's the best and most respectful thing we can do for this game in its final years. It's been a bit since my last Knots video, but I assure you that's due to being incredibly busy recently. After the next indie shindig, I have something in mind. Until then, I hope you all have a good day and be safe.